Best believe I'm still bejeweled when I fly in the room. I just realized I look like Tooth from Rise of the Guardians. Not what I was going for, but I don't completely hate it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with Season 6 of the 9 Realms. And I'm celebrating by finally dressing as Best Girls Dragon herself. Feathers and Alex have no reason being in something as half-baked as this show. So we are giving them the recognition they deserve tonight. And speaking of which, look at this! Isn't this the cutest thing you've ever seen in your entire life? Huge shout out to Sabsack on Twitter for sending this to me. It is an adorable Alexandra Gonzalez designed by her. She even has the crown. Look how cute. And the crazy thing is there are only 2 of these in existence. And Sabsack and I are holding a charity auction for the other one. If you go to the link in the description and the pinned comment below, you will be directed to the auction, which will go live as soon as this video is posted publicly and will remain live for the week following. Meaning you have 7 days from the publication date of this video to go to the auction and bid on this one-of-a-kind doll yourself. All of the proceeds will be donated to the Trevor Project, an incredible charity who helps support LGBTQ+ youth. I felt it was on brand for Alex since she has queer mothers, gotta represent. So please go check out the auction for yourself if you want to be the only other person on the planet to own this one-of-a-kind adorable creation. The link to Sabsack's store will also be in the description down below. Go check out her collection. She's super talented and absolutely deserves it. And this will be the queen's new permanent spot. She's always watching. But anyways, back to the long-awaited review for Dragons the 9 Realms Season 6. Don't ask me why it's taking me longer and longer to get these out. Aside from the amount that I always have to say, I think this show is just making me a weaker human being. I'm like a video game character taking damage. I can only go for so long taking hits until I die completely. Although I am being a little bit hyperbolic because you will be shocked to hear this, I'm sure. But I'm going to make the disclaimer now that I believe Season 6 to be the least worst season of the entire show so far. Notice I didn't say good. But I would definitely argue that it is the most notable collection of somewhat coherent, not terrible episodes that this show has to offer. You can make that my quote on the poster. In a very brief summary, this season is chaotic as hell, but in a mostly fun, what the fuck am I watching kind of way. We're gonna get into it with all 7 episodes, because yes, there are 7 again. Lucky us. You know the drill. I'm gonna go over some stuff that I liked about it, then walk you through every single episode and give my thoughts about what happened. As always, please do not go after or harass anyone who worked on the show, as well as people who state that they enjoy the show publicly. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. This just happens to be mine. And I hope you enjoy the insanity that is about to ensue. But before we get started, I wanted to give a shout out to this video's sponsor, Aura. If you're watching this video, chances are you're a frequent internet user. And these days it's ridiculous to browse the web without some protection. Aura offers a combination of identity protection, insurance, credit, and social security monitoring from the convenience of a single app. They also have a built-in VPN, password protection, and antivirus software for all of your devices. I do a lot of research for my reviews, and this one in particular took me down quite the internet rabbit hole. I was researching sociopaths, narcissistic personality disorders, manipulation tactics. There are only so many terms to describe June. And thanks to Aura's VPN access, I don't have to worry about my internet service provider giving me the side eye. And if Aura detects any data breaches or suspicious activity with your information, they'll send you a notification right away, meaning you have the peace of mind of knowing your data is protected. And using my custom link in the description, Aura is offering 2 free weeks of their full services. That's aura.com/Audrey. If you're not happy with Aura's services, you can cancel the free trial at no cost to you. Again, that is aura.com/Audrey, link in the description. And thank you to Aura for sponsoring today's video. With all of that said, strap in, hooligans! It's time for another beatdown. As I've already stated, I do believe this season was the least worst season so far in the show. So you're probably expecting the stuff I liked section to be very lengthy this time around. Well, sorry, you're wrong. The main reason I think this season is more coherent than others before it really comes down to them finally implementing simple television standards that should have been in place since the very beginning. Things like the pacing of certain episodes being a bit better, characters undergoing change and development, and it actually being referenced later on, at least to a certain degree. Really the basic bones of storytelling when it comes to any form of elongated content. But the problem is, while Season 6 has the most abundance of coherence when it comes to these standards in comparison to previous seasons, it is also the most inconsistent with them. They'll do something really amazing with a character one episode, and in the next, it's like nothing we saw ever happened. Take a wild guess as to which character I'm referring to. And that leaves me in this place where I want to applaud them for finally showing notable skills in the way of production, but I don't feel that I can really do that since they don't remain that way moving forward. I really want to compliment this show when they do great things, especially for how rare those things are, but when they do them and completely backpedal for the sake of plot in the next episode, it gets really frustrating. Especially when it's with a character that has so much potential for depth. Can you guess which character I'm referring to? But to point out specific things I liked this season, this was one of the first times where the characters would repeatedly explore territory in the hidden world, and I didn't feel annoyed or confused by it. They find a new giant-themed realm this time, and even though we only spend 2 of the 7 episodes there, it didn't feel like a missed opportunity like the nature realm did last season. In fact, they have a pretty good balance of exploring the new giant realm while continuing to discover new dragons in sections of the nature realm. And these discoveries are actually plot relevant and well utilized for the episodes they're included in. And speaking of discovering new dragons, there are some really interesting ones introduced this season. The Octofin in the season finale looks badass and like it actually belongs in the animation style of the show. And we get some recurring dragons such as Deadly Natters and Death Grippers, and both look well translated into the new style, not to mention well utilized given their abilities. The Death Grippers were fucking awesome in their episode and genuinely felt like a worthy threat against the kids and their dragons. And speaking of that episode, it was easily one of my favorites of the entire show so far in a very non-ironic way. I think it made me feel more emotion than I've ever felt watching the 9 Realms. Purposeful emotion, at least. The unbridled anger and disdain I've felt every season now is definitely more powerful. But episode 4 wanted me to feel a very specific emotion given the circumstances that took place, and I indeed felt that emotion. And it's Eugene-centric. Who could have guessed it? And in regards to humor this season, there were quite a few moments that got me in an, again, non-ironic fashion. Most of them due to Alex, who is a total savage this season, as always. Too bad they forgot to give her her own episode again. That is literally 2 seasons in a row now. The fuck is wrong with you people? But rest assured, there were also an abundance of moments where the episodes definitely did not want me to laugh, but I did anyways. And you are going to lose your shit when you see some of them. Just wait. Unfortunately, however, I have some very tragic news. The magma breather is not featured at all this season, so you know the drill. 100 points off for not including the Chonker boy, and throw out an additional 100 for no Alex-centric episodes. And that pretty much sums up the good things, so let's dive into the chaos, lads. Episode 1 is titled Dragons Everywhere and focuses on the dragons adapting to being on the surface world even though an entire month has passed. Huh? Yes, you heard that correctly. You know, one of the main questions I raised at the end of my season 5 video was exactly how they were going to move forward with this plot, because no matter what you did, it wouldn't make sense. And yes, I was finally given an answer as to how they were going to handle it. And the answer is, they don't. I went on and on about how they had written themselves into a corner with Season 5's finale, and watching them prove me right yet again is equal parts hilarious and disheartening. Because either you go the route of all the parents reacting to the dragons being real like Olivia did all of Season 5, which would be insanely repetitive, or you brush it under the rug, which would be even worse. Because in that scenario, you're essentially throwing out all chances of the few people who take this show seriously continuing to do so. And surprise, surprise, they brush it under the rug and the adults just kind of walk around like, yep, mythological creatures of legends that are quite literally the biggest scientific find in history are real. Anyways, are we out of coffee? All that ketamine must have really rewired their brains at this point, so I guess it's not that unbelievable. Oh, and also, remember that devastating winter storm that was apparently so bad that they were all in danger of dying if they didn't get help immediately? Well, apparently they survived it. What, so are they just not gonna bring up the giant ice storm that almost killed all of them last season? I guess fucking not. not. I guess they're fine. It's never even mentioned, but I guess they were able to do just fine despite having no helicopter and no access to the outside world. The dragons starting a fire that you definitely couldn't have done yourself with simple matches and lighter fluid must have really saved your asses. But it's not like they had any more food or rations than they did before that happened. Apparently there was no reason to fly and crash a helicopter in hazardous freezing winds that almost resulted in 2 people dying, you fucking idiots. So the plot goes, since the dragons are in Rake Town now, they're becoming a huge nuisance, and since Tom is the quote-unquote dragon whisperer, everyone looks to him to solve the problem. And if you have even the slightest desire to check out this episode for yourself, then stop everything and instead go watch Riders of Berk episode 1, How to Start a Dragon Academy. Because in that episode, Hiccup is tasked with figuring out a way to control the dragons now that they're integrated into society, and do so in a way that doesn't upset the adults who are still very wary of the dragon's presence, while also finding creative ways to get the villagers to like them so they'll be less likely to do them any harm. And in Dragons Everywhere, Tom and the kids are tasked with figuring out a way to control the dragons now that they're integrated into society, and do so in a way that doesn't upset the adults who are still very wary of the dragon's presence, while also finding creative ways to get the townspeople to like them so they'll be less likely to do them any harm. In fact, I think I've said this 10 million times in these reviews, but if you're at all put off by the 9 Realms existence and haven't seen the original shows, go give them a watch immediately. Even Riders and Defenders of Berk, with its dated animation quality, it's infinitely better than the 9 Realms in pretty much all aspects. Just do it.
Watch out! Dragon on the loose!
Coming!
Heroic one-liner!
Wait, so I'm like 10 minutes into editing this, right? And I'm watching this one part where I'm crowning Alex in her queen moment, and why is D'Angelo's ass on screen? It's just stuck there, look! What the fuck? What the fuck? Like, I know it kind of drops frames at this part in the recording, but I checked the stream version and it's also there. Oh, Phil looks so confused. I just started editing episode 1. This is gonna be an experience. The kids are pretty much dragon pest control now, which makes specifically Tom popular with all the adults because they now idolize this 15-year-old child for the ability to control dragons, I think.
The Dragon Whisperer does it again!
Will somebody fucking please explain to me when Tom became the Dragon Whisperer? When did he do anything to warrant this title? I have been trying to figure this out since D'Angelo randomly called him this in season 4, and I am still confused. When did this happen? Well, you see, Audrey, there was a line of dialogue written about it, so because a character said those words in that order, it's automatically true. Doesn't matter if we never actually see it happen. The only explanation we've gotten is this one line from Tom, and even he doesn't understand. He says, I guess.
I guess since I was the first one to find Thunder, and we have a connection to Hiccup, the whole town looks to me to fix all the dragon problems.
And even that very vague explanation makes no sense. You are the Dragon Whisperer because you were the first person to discover them? If a homeless bush person living in the woods happened to fall down a 20-foot hole and discover dragons before being mercilessly devoured by them, would he be considered the Dragon Whisperer since he found them first? Ignore how I pretty much just described Buzzsaw. This plot point makes no sense, and it will continue to not make sense. Congrats. Now, the general plot and inciting incident of this episode is really bizarre, so I don't even feel like spending that much time talking about it. But basically, the kids, excluding Tom, are jealous of the attention he's getting for being the Dragon Whisperer, because he, like, grabbed a dragon before they did, and Eugene gets mad about it.
What? Not even.
Totally even. That was Gonzo's win, and you snaked it.
It was kinda weird, Tom.
Ah, so this is what happens when you run out of ideas. To be fair, I had no fucking clue how this show was going to write itself out of the batshit insane place it left off at the end of season 5 either. But I guess the solution is just to make everyone dumb and petty for absolutely no reason and base a whole episode around easily avoidable conflict. So, pretty much what this show does every episode anyways, but dialed up to 11. Can you please give me a singular example of when the other kids showed even a shred of concern about being popular with the adults at the project that they don't even know? Since when does notoriety mean anything to them? There's a scene where June and D'Angelo bitch about their parents going to Tom instead of them when there's a dragon problem, which may be a somewhat justifiable reason to be upset, but it's kind of crushed by the 5-ton elephant taking up the entire room, which is the fact that the adults found out less than 30 days ago that fucking dragons in an infinitely expansive hidden world beneath their feet filled with limitless undiscovered species, minerals, and flora exist. And instead of locking down the base and doing genuine scientific research in their scientific research facility, they employ a 15-year-old child to man the entire operation like it's a rat infestation or something. In fact, the only person who does any research on the new dragon world is Sledbitch, and she's vilified for it. What the fuck? So Tom and his mother have a scene where he vents about taking on too much responsibility, and I'd like you to enjoy Olivia's presence while you can. Because remember how all of last season was focused on her and Tom's relationship? Well, this season I think they gave her about 4 lines of dialogue total, and she's fucking gone for the rest of it. Which, hey, I'm not complaining. At least I don't have to bitch about having to watch her be a total dumbass for a whole season again, despite how entertaining it was. So Eugene calls the group to the dragon lair to whine about how Tom's getting all the attention.
I call this emergency meeting to formally open impeachment proceedings.
I can't believe I got out of bed for this.
But after this, Olivia calls them back to town because the dragons have taken over, and Tom leaves to the hidden world to figure out what's making them come to the surface. Because it definitely couldn't be the fact that you willingly brought several of them to the surface world and told everyone in town about the secret despite your goal from the very beginning being the exact opposite of that.
Let's do this, riders.
Don't ever fix your lips to say that, bro.
Stop calling yourselves writers. You are embarrassing the fandom. So as Tom and Thunder go off alone, they find a new passage in the fissure they haven't explored before. At first, I thought this was going to be the entrance to the new giant realm that was advertised this season, and I was actually pretty impressed that they at least included a somewhat sensible entrance to this one. But no, I was wrong. And it just leads to a different part of the nature realm from season 5. In fact, they put more effort into this new entrance to the nature realm than they put in the entrance to the new giant realm later on, which is pretty fucking funny. And while Tom and Thunder are down there, we actually get to the part of this season premiere that I genuinely enjoyed, which is Tom and Thunder having an episode where they actually bond. I can't even remember the last time that's happened, if ever. I think the last time they had an episode dedicated to growing their relationship was the pilot. They've had moments with Thunder trying to find his family and Tom working with him to keep his mother from finding out about the hidden world, but this is the first time in forever they've had more than one scene dedicated to the two of them. You'd think there would be a lot more of those considering the entire season 4 finale was the screenwriters trying to make the audience feel sad that the two might be separated, when in reality nobody gave a shit. This is something the original shows had mastered. The executive producers, Art and Doug, always said that the relationship between Hiccup and Toothless is what drives the story forward.
You know, the key relationship, I mean, the one, you know, is Hiccup and Toothless, obviously. I mean, that's always, we have a saying, where's Toothless? Like, you know, in a script, if we're looking at a script or reading an outline, we'll just like write WT, where's Toothless? You know, and like, they need to be in there. That drives the story.
Did this show just forget that the theme that they're trying to go for is a boy and his dragon and not a boy and a group of infinitely unlikable assholes that nobody likes who go through the same lessons and moral journeys every season because the showrunners don't have ideas? Or did they just think that all those shameless ripoffs of the original franchise they had in season 1 made up for them not having enough skill to do something something intriguingly derivative of the source material while still being its own unique thing. Because guess what? They didn't. So while Tom and Thunder are in the nature realm, the other kids try to solve the dragon infestation back at Raketown.
That smash sounded expensive.
Hello? Has nobody been listening to me? Everything is Tom's fault!
Okay, if I include all the scenes of the screenwriters making Eugene an asshole for no reason, this video would be like 4 hours long. And you have much better uses of that time. So just assume that every time I cut the footage, there's at least a 2-minute scene of him bitching about nothing that I had to sit through multiple times while making this review. And back in the hidden world, Tom and Thunder encounter a group of aggressive deadly natters that I was pretty happy to see. This is the first time in the show we've seen the species. They don't look terrible, and I thought they were well utilized in the episode. Tom attempts to bond with one, but others appear and it's obvious they're in a dangerous situation.
One of your little dragon friends found his way into the general store and munched down all of our emergency rations.
Oh, so you did have rations! It is confirmed! Phil and Olivia were trying to off themselves because they were tired of being around their children. There is no other explanation. You had a death wish and I kind of don't blame you. So June and Alex figure out from the dragon book that dragons are afraid of eels and the kids use fake snakes to set up around Raketown to keep the dragons from going where they're not supposed to. I mean, they could always just fly upwards and off into the world to avoid them, which is the very thing you're trying to avoid, but okay. Back in the nature realm, Thunder is hit with a deadly natter spine and Tom has an obligatory I can't do this alone moment.
Maybe Hiccup could do it, but I am not a Viking. I'm not a chief. I'm just Tom.
Did we not do this exact same thing in the last episode?
I'm no Hiccup. I can't bring humans and dragons together.
Yep, just checking. But eventually Tom removes the spine and the two go out to fight the natters and hey look, it's his Harry Potter wand again! Pretty sure we didn't see it at all in season 5. And the last time we did, it was when he, you know. Oh, did you forget about the fact that Tom fed Hiccup's millennium-old prosthetic leg to a dragon in season 4? You poor innocent soul. And then Thunder gets control of the 3 natters by going alpha? Yes. The natters bow to him, and then fuck off.
3 of them, and you just went like full alpha.
Do you guys get it? Oh my gosh, because Thunder is gonna be the alpha now. How long into the review are we? Is it long enough for my first big rant? I really hope so. Strap in. Back in my season 4 review, if you recall, when we saw Thunder's family, there was an Elder Nightlight that was presumed to be the alpha because all the other dragons were bowing to it. And I said something to the effect of, if it's revealed for sure that this Elder Nightlight is the alpha, I'm saving that rant for a future review, because that's a mess in and of itself. And the time is now, folks. So obviously, at the end of the OG Dragons franchise, Toothless was the alpha dragon who had the power to command all other dragons to do what he wanted. And we can infer that since Toothless is no longer around, that alpha position went down through his descendants, and at the time of the 9 realms, belonged to the Elder Nightlight. Okay, that makes perfect sense. But the reason I was so skeptical to call the Elder Dragon the alpha in my season 4 review was because despite the other Nightlights bowing to it, it didn't have the same ability to control other dragons like the alpha should. Because if he did, the snow wraiths wouldn't be attacking the nest. He could just command them to fuck off and they would. There is no scenario if the Elder Nightlight is indeed the alpha where that wouldn't happen. In the original franchise, there were only 2 dragons known to be capable of resisting the alpha's commands. Death Grippers, which we saw in movie 3 as being being corrupted by their own venom at the hands of Grimmel, and the Tormentipede from the unreleased comic The Fire Tides, because of its symbiotic connection to whatever host it latches onto. Also, hashtag release the Fire Tides, go check out the video, etc, etc. So that is the reason I was hesitant to call the Elder Nightlight the Alpha in my Season 4 review, because I was thinking that maybe there would be something the characters would find in the Dragon book about alphas, or something would happen to where it's revealed that, I don't fucking know, something got messed up as the position was passed down between generations. Maybe there's some kind of battle for the alpha title happening between species that the show was leading up to, so its abilities aren't completely sound. But then I finally realized what the biggest problem with all of that was. I actually assumed for a minute that this show was smart and would think to do any of that instead of just fucking up the canon lore because they don't understand what they're writing about. My mistake. So the screenwriters of the 9 Realms wrote the Elder Nightlight to be the Alpha and just forgot that the Alpha can control other dragons at the time, proving that they already didn't give a shit about staying true to the facts presented in the source material, but now we get this. Thunder just going Alpha out of nowhere and harnessing the ability to control dragons, kind of, which the Elder never did for some reason, which, I know you'll be shocked to hear this, is not how that fucking works. Can you explain to me when Thunder received this ability? Was it something he had from the very beginning and only did it now because Tom was in danger? That would match what happened at the end of movie 2, but that doesn't explain how he can control other dragons now, which, come to think of it, is something he only does in this one episode and not any of the episodes afterwards. I feel like that would come in handy when fighting Buzzsaw's Timberjack or literally any other instance where your lives are in danger, but I guess not. I get that the true nature of the Alpha Dragon was always a little vague in the movies to begin with, but this show has managed to make it even more confusing in the worst ways imaginable. There's no rhyme or reason to it in this show. Certain things that should remain consistent either happen or don't happen depending on what the screenwriter needs at the moment, and that is a terrible thing. Are the Alpha's abilities only suppressed by a rip in space and time caused by the screenwriter needing a stupid plot to work and being unable to do something because of a rule of the franchise they're writing for? My point is that they are, once again, pulling shit from the original franchise for the sake of convenience and having a cool looking scene rather than trying to make anything they do make sense within the rules of the universe. Why are you like this? And the most frustrating part of all of this is that I absolutely know none of it is going to be explained. How could it be? Is there going to be a passage in the Dragon book about alphas that has a super long and convoluted description of ways the position could be transferred or shared between specifically Toothless's descendants? But sometimes the powers may work and sometimes they won't. I fucking doubt it. It's almost like, to avoid putting yourselves in this terrible position where the audience will be questioning how exactly something in your show is possible, you should have just not touched the concept to begin with if you couldn't handle the complex explanation that needed to go with it. This is a fantasy show in a pre-established world. There is a public online wiki with all the information you could ever need about the show you're making. Is it seriously that much of a chore to understand the things you're writing before you write them? And even if you're bringing in screenwriters who don't have time to sit through the entire franchise and do hours of homework before they write an episode, there are people in charge of those screenwriters for a reason. And those people have no fucking excuse to get the lore wrong. It is literally their job. So Tom and Thunder see that the Deadly Natter's dragon sight has been stolen by someone, which, if you remember, is that green crystal they've been hinting will be important for 5 seasons now. And back at the surface, Tom has his obligatory speech about how he needs the other kids and can't do everything on his own like he's been trying to do, and they forgive him, obviously.
I'm sure it's really hard whispering to dragons.
Wait, we're forgiving him? How many free passes does this group hand out?
You know, the screenwriters tried to make him an asshole here, but thank you, Eugene. I've been asking that for 2 years now.
Who do you think these other Vikings are? Maybe the team that helped him?
Bitch, say their names. Fucking say their names. I dare you. I will punch you through the screen. But that's not the complete end of the episode, because it turns out Sledbitch and Linda were the ones to raid the dragon nest for Dragonsight, and I know this because they implore the glorious tell and show rule.
Are those the gems from the dragon nest we raided?
They sure are.
Here at the Nine Realms, we think our audience is so incompetent that we have to say what's happening and show them what's happening at the same time for fear that they won't figure it out. Kids are not this stupid. So yeah, Sled Bitch is the main dragon enemy this season and gets up to some pretty nefarious shit. In fact, they almost kill people and dragons a shit ton of times this season. But I'm sure the screenwriters at the Nine Realms are peaceful people. Surely they aren't pulling from personal experience. It's me. Hi. I'd like to welcome you all to the school of making pesky know-it-all YouTubers disappear. Is a stupid little critic on YouTube responsible for your show's ratings going down? If so, the solution is very simple. Develop a plan of action, preferably involving dynamite. Dynamite? Isn't that a little excessive? Okay, I'm sorry. Are you the teacher here, or do I need to break out the handcuffs and duct tape like last time? No, please, I was stuck in this chair for days last time! You know, you're lucky these seasons drop so fast. If this were Race to the Edge, you'd be mummified by now. I will do whatever you want, just tell me what to do. Well, you see, our target won't be hard to locate. Audrey Greywind, 23, college dropout. An antisocial freak who spends all her time discrediting our work and drooling over shirtless Vikings. Okay, how do I find her? Don't worry, we'll teach you all you need to know. But for now, let's focus on the basics. The ABCs of discrete disappearances. A is for... Alaskan Pipeline? Hey, I think you may have gotten some of our printer documents by accident. Who are you? Oh, I'm a casting agent. We're renting a studio down the hall. Oh, cool. This is yours. Thanks! See you guys later. What the hell is an Alaskan Pipeline? Episode 2 is titled Break in Case of Emergency, and it is what I like to refer to as the sitcom episode of this season. The plot follows the kids as they are left alone on base while the parents leave for a mandatory training class and are told they can't let dragons into town while they're gone. Hijinks ensue, and they must get everything back to normal before their parents return. Is there a single 90s or 2000s sitcom that did not use that exact plotline? The episode begins as the adults are getting into— Wait a fucking minute! Didn't that helicopter fall off a cliff and explode 2 episodes ago? Yep, I guess they got a new one? Who the hell approved that after last time? Anyways, the kids are told they need to keep the dragons in the lair and stay in town until the parents return tomorrow morning. Are you seriously going to trust these dumbasses to stay on a billion-dollar research base unsupervised? The only adult we see left behind at all in the episode is Linda, and she doesn't interact with the kids at all. You know, this was the point where I finally made the decision to completely give up on the adults in this show having any form of common sense or value for the lives of their children. Do not ask me why I still believed it was a possibility after last season or any of the seasons prior to that. It's happening right now. From this point on, the adults in the Nine Realms have brains made out of melted cheese. They are no longer characters. They are giant meat puppets that only exist for the purpose of inciting plot devices. So Phil pulls D'Angelo aside and tells his son that it's his job to be the responsible one of the group. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, the screenwriters finally remembered that D'Angelo is a character. He actually has 2 episodes this season that semi-focus on him. I think the last time that happened was season 3. But honestly, I don't really care because you forgot to give Alex an episode for the 2nd season in a row! Who the fuck is letting Olivia fly? Need I remind you? So Eugene sneaks the dragons out of the lair and brings them to the dome for a party, despite D'Angelo being a baby about it. Tom and him go off, and at first it seems like he sides with D'Angelo, but eventually joins the others. Then we get to the main conflict, where the dragons spot and chase a sheep. Uh-oh. And eventually Eugene and D'Angelo get stuck in the town hangar with their dragons, along with Feathers, and the others have to figure a way to get them out. Tom suggests for Alex to hack the system to open the doors, but her tablet is in Feathers' saddlebag.
She gave us the passcode already. That's basically permission.
Eugene, no!
I hope it's full of embarrassing selfies.
Come on, what a missed opportunity. You could have made it so that we saw her stalking the other characters or getting up to some super illegal shit, but it just self-destructs. I mean, she was pretty much already stalking Tom with a tracker in season 1, so I guess that's something. You know Alex is up to some nefarious shit that we want to see. Give the queen screen time.
My dad is gonna find us in here and probably ban dragons from the surface for good.
Would that seriously be such a bad thing? Isn't keeping dragons on the surface world extremely dangerous because if one person outside of Raketown sees them, it would mean the secret gets out to the world, and that's the very thing you're trying to avoid? Gee, if only there were, I don't know, adults around to point out that their plan to keep dragons safe is fucking ridiculous and dangerous for everyone. Oh, I forgot. Melted cheese. Just for the sake of time, I will say that I do not hate this episode. It doesn't really feel like it fits into the show because, again, it's very sitcom-y, but there were moments that made me genuinely laugh.
Little. Ow! You're so tiny. You call that tiny?
Eugene!
Okay, that was pretty great. The dynamic of D'Angelo and Eugene works pretty well, even if Eugene is just a floppity Ann with multiple personalities for most of this season. Although I will admit that their non-stop bickering got pretty annoying, especially D'Angelo. The screenwriters have always done him pretty dirty, but I'm fairly certain 95% of the episodes dedicated to him are centered around him recycling the same character arc of not wanting to disappoint his dad.
Our parents trusted us, and we're not gonna break that trust. Is this how we earn our parents' trust? Our parents specifically said, no dragons. They are trusting us. And then you end up trapped somewhere you weren't even supposed to be, with dragons you weren't supposed to have. And your dad will totally find out and never trust you with anything ever again. Doesn't matter now, my dad's never gonna trust me again anyway.
Shut up. D'Angelo's father is present in his life and loves him, and yet he somehow manages to have more daddy issues than Tom and Eugene combined. Eugene is a child of divorce, and Tom's father abandoned him as a child. Fuck off with your stupid, my dad will be slightly angry with me, my life is over shit. So Tom and Alex get a key that opens the doors from the inside from Phil's dome, and June has a fucking brainiac idea on how they can get it inside, sending it around a terrible terror's neck through a ventilation duct as her bun magically disappears. Of course, the plan immediately screws up because the terror fucks around and gets lost. Why couldn't one of you do it? You are literally the exact same size as that dragon. And D'Angelo gets a text from his dad saying the adults are on their way home early, and the terror that June brilliantly led into the facility starts fucking around with shit in the control room, so they resort to pulling the fire alarm, which will trigger an emergency opening, which is apparently something D'Angelo knew about all along but didn't mention.
Eugene, causing a false fire alarm is the ultimate act of rule breaking. It strains resources, puts others in danger, and violates trust.
When I was in college, I accidentally triggered the fire alarm in my dorm by opening a bag of popcorn underneath it. Can you stop being obnoxious for 3 fucking seconds, please? Don't worry, kids. If Olivia's flying the helicopter, they'll probably crash before they even make it home. I think you'll be fine. There's also a nice moment when Eugene sympathizes with D'Angelo not wanting to disappoint his dad.
I want to get out of here too, but let's just say I don't have the best relationship with my dad, and I don't want you to ruin what you have with yours.
And at the end of the episode, when Phil does return, he almost catches them trying to retrieve the terror, but Eugene covers for D'Angelo and takes all the heat for both setting off the fire alarm and being in a restricted area. It's a great example of the side of Eugene we saw a lot back in season 4, before seasons 5 and 6 decided to make him a complete asshole for no reason. It was a really nice ending to the episode that is 100% about to be ruined and forgotten, because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Episode 3 is June-centric! Episode 3 is titled Undercover and focuses on June forming an unlikely connection with Sledbitch, the antagonist. Hold up. A whole episode dedicated to the chemistry of June with one of the shadiest canon bitches in the entire show? It's almost like I saw this coming. I cannot express this enough. June and Sledbitch have better chemistry than any 2 characters in this show, arguably in all 5 seasons. And it's safe to say we've had a completely unjustifiable number of June-centric episodes in this show. 7 out of the 39 in total have been focused on her, which is even more fucking ridiculous when you compare compared to Alex's 4. But I do have to make this disclaimer here. Season 6's Undercover might be my favorite June-centric episode in the entire show so far. What's that? Is DJ rejoicing because this was his favorite episode of the season and I decided against beating him to death for it? No, definitely not. Undercover is not my favorite June-centric episode because it gives her character any type of depth or emotional arc that feels justified for once in this character's whole fucking existence. It's my favorite because, in a similar vein to Journey to the Snowcano from season 4, we witness firsthand how absolutely insufferable she can actually be, and the show, once again, treats it like a quirky character trait rather than an infuriating detriment to everyone in the group. But Audrey, shouldn't that make you mad just like it did in season 4? Yes, it absolutely does. But what keeps me from casting it into the fiery pits of hell where Journey to the Snowcano lives is the utter lack of self-awareness the screenwriters had when they put one of their good guy main characters beside the show's sociopathic antagonist for 22 minutes and said nothing but, "Hey, don't these two have so much in common?" It is fucking hysterical. Let's talk about it. The episode begins with June and the other kids in the Dragon Lair as she practices a speech she plans to give her mother about how, with her expansive dragon knowledge, she can be of use in helping the adults research them, I think.
In that spirit, Mom, I hope you'll consider me as a trusted advisor in the quest to learn more about these great creatures.
What fucking quest? Literally none of the adults have even hinted that they have any plans or are even remotely interested in studying dragons. Aside from Sled Bitch, who has to do so in secret because she'll get in trouble otherwise. I feel like all June-centric episodes have a template that goes along with the screenplay that the writer has to hit. Dealing with her classic Asian parent stereotype of a mother is one tick, and including the fact that she loves mythology is another.
Myths are actually real stories, or at least based on them. And we can use those stories to better understand dragons.
We get it. June likes mythology. Can you, for the love of God, give her a single other personality trait aside from that? Also, this whole inciting incident of June proposing to her mother that she's valuable because of her knowledge of mythology completely falls apart after about 2 seconds of conscious thought, which clearly the screenwriters are incapable of at this point. You're useful to the study of dragons because you know a bunch of myths about them? Don't you idiots have a 1,000-year-old dragon book that contains detailed information from someone in history that studied the creatures extensively? Wouldn't that be a bit more useful than your myths, which you have previously admitted are nothing more than rhetorical? Well, June did tell Tom to shove the dragon book up his ass 2 seasons ago, and the episode went on to prove that her delusion of trusting vague bedtime stories she was told as a child was more valuable than said dragon manual. Your goal is to make us like these characters, isn't it? I will say though, the best part of this opening scene is just how clearly unimpressed Alex is.
That was on point.
You crushed it.
Look at Alex's face. She looks so unimpressed. Oh, that's awesome. If this is not the perfect face that every single person makes whenever they see June in this show, then I don't know what it is. Thank you, Alex. You have delivered.
It's go time. Who's got what it takes? You've got what it takes!
Don't fuck with June. She's got the power of God and anime on her side. So June meets her mother in the elevator for her pitch and completely fucks it up. She gets understandably disheartened by it and talks with Sled Bitch on her way out, and the two connect over how much they both hate June's mom. And Sled Bitch actually gives June a pep talk about how she believes her love of mythology can help and is looking for someone with experience to take her to the hidden world to study dragon sight. Obviously, when she proposes this to the group, they're against it because of how untrustworthy the woman has been in the past. And I have to admit, despite my hatred for June, she actually says one of the most logical sentences ever spoken by a person in this show.
Because Icarus is literally a science facility that was built to study the fissure, and now that they know about the hidden world, it makes sense that they'd want to study that too.
That is literally the first time anyone has ever said that out loud. I almost completely forgot this show was taking place at a scientific research facility.
Bringing someone like Sledkin down there?
Someone like Sledkin? what does that even mean? And it's Dr. Sledkin. We just had a conversation that was all about science. So maybe you're letting your mom's feelings about Sledkin cloud your judgment.
This is the main character's love interest we're supposed to like and relate to, everyone. At the very least, this scene is the starting point of what I think makes this episode especially great in the worst way imaginable. Because here we see Tom and Alex in particular getting irritated as hell with June's stupid rationale, and that will only escalate going forward. So June and D'Angelo take Sled Bitch to the hidden world to do research, while Tom, Alex, and Eugene stay behind and investigate why she's being so friendly with the kids all of a sudden. And I have to say that this is once again a utilization of my 3 favorite characters in the entire show that is absolutely wasted by shitty writing. But even in the ways they fuck up the dynamic by, take a wild guess, making Eugene a complete idiot for no reason, they still manage to make these characters likable together.
You ever see someone use gummies as a froyo topping?
I love gummies on my froyo.
Of course you do.
Hate to ruin your hot take.
This is sour.
Sour gummies are sour. Any other pearls of wisdom you care to bestow?
Or perhaps this is just me being amazed by a group of characters not being completely awful for 10 seconds, because we immediately cut to the most awful character in the show afterwards. So in the hidden world, Sled Bitch insists on taking out her camera and recording everything she sees for the sake of putting it in her new book, which she explicitly states.
Do you mind if I record our findings? I want to capture everything. Maybe include some of it in my next book. With acknowledgement to you, of course.
So that is awful, right? As D'Angelo said at the end of season 5, Icarus employees are bound by secrecy, so any scientific exploration must remain classified. Plus, that is the very thing the kids have spent 6 seasons now trying to avoid. Books are typically published to a wide array of people, especially if they're written by a world-famous scientist, right? This is an objectively bad thing by the show's very logic and definition, right?
Rule number 1 of Dragon Club
I
is...
think it's okay this time. Right, Dee? I mean, as long as it's for science?
Do you motherfuckers finally see what the fuck I am talking about when I say that June is the worst fucking character in history? Please, you have to believe me. My 7 to 10 second clips that I'm allowed to show do not do justice to how fucking unbearable this character is. I didn't think it could be done. I did not think it was possible to unintentionally make a main character that everyone is supposed to like this unbelievably unlikable. But the 9 Realms did it. By their own logic, June, for the sake of acknowledgement in a book, is saying, fuck the dragon secret, let the world find out, I just want attention. And we're supposed to like her. I don't know anymore how this is real. It's happening. I paid money to watch it happen! I would also like to make it clear that I understand that characters are supposed to be flawed, and yes, June does apologize for her actions later in the episode. Some of her actions anyways, like letting Sled Bitch down there at all. I'm pretty sure she never apologizes for letting her record shit. I get that she is also a child in an emotionally vulnerable state being manipulated by an adult woman. But not only does June face no fucking consequences for being a smug little bitch the whole episode, only it's okay, it could happen June. You're a good person. But we have had this exact same issue with June for the entirety of the show now. June is the biggest, most arrogant, two-faced bitch and has only gotten worse as the seasons go on. She constantly undermines her friends and goes out of her way to make them the villains and never, I repeat, never considers that they may be right while she is wrong. And there is never a point where the show acknowledges this. And for those saying, Audrey, it's because her mom is mean to her and doesn't show her any attention and doesn't take her obsession with mythology seriously. Shut your fucking mouths. You know that news story as of recently of the mom who hired a hitman to kill her 3-year-old child? That kid had a shitty mother. Lots of people have shitty mothers. I am the poster child for having shitty mothers. Do not hit me with the shitty mother card because I will take it and beat you with it every time. If you are actually going to commit to June being this lacking in self-awareness and consideration for every single person and dragon she claims to care about, then make June the fucking villain! You've pretty much done it by accident at this point because of how many people who watch this show that genuinely despise her compared to the other characters. Just commit to it! You people are the real supervillains if you think she's actually in the right for doing this. If you have a problem with that, then shoot me, goddammit. Alright, so here's how you load the pistol. Wait, we're actually gonna shoot her? Why not? It's effective, isn't it? Besides, if she doesn't die, she'll be too weak to go back to reviewing. Trust me, once you have a run-in with death, the last thing you want to do is watch the 9 Realms longer than you have to. It just seems a little excessive. Do we have to kill her at all? Why don't we just scare her? How so? Well... Oh, what if we put out that DreamWorks is making a live-action How to Train Your Dragon just like the awful Disney remakes? Surely that'll make her want to stop focusing on us and go after them. Yeah, that would be a great idea if it weren't already happening for real. Wait, it is? How could you not know about that? You haven't let me out of this building for 6 months. Oh, right. We're cool on that, by the way, you and I. Whatever, let's just get this job done. Now, let's get into torture methods in case you have time to enjoy the kill. Jesus, didn't you work on this show? How did you, of all people, write characters that are meant to appeal to kids? Somebody had to write June's character, didn't they? Yeah, actually that checks out. And mark my fucking words, audience, June only gets worse as the episode goes on, because Sledbitch records all sorts of dragon information from June, who the entire time is unapologetically ignoring D'Angelo's request for her to back the fuck off telling Sledbitch everything because she isn't trustworthy yet. She shows a great interest in the dragon site that some terrible terrors are seen shooting fire at, which checks out because Tom, Eugene, and Alex discover on her computer back at Icarus that she's been sending emails with Linda talking about being the ones to steal the crystal from the Natter's nest back in episode 1. And once Sledbitch returns with June and D'Angelo, she leaves them and Tom confronts June with this information. So what do you think June's reaction is going to be when she learns that the woman Tom said couldn't be trusted is outed for sneaking around and fucking up the dragon's ecosystem in secret, which happens to be information that she never disclosed to the group before going down there with them? Take a wild guess.
But I do know she's not being honest with you.
So today we are talking about a manipulation and abuse formula that abusers use against their victims. Deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender.
We saw an email Sledkin sent admitting she's the one who took the dragon site from the Natter's nest.
So?
The offender first denies the abuse.
Messed up the dragon's ecosystem.
And how many times have we accidentally done that?
Next, they attack the victim's character for attempting to hold them accountable for this offense.
Gee, Tom, did you ever think that maybe she wanted me there? That I have something to offer?
And then claim they are the actual victim and the victim is the offender.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Are you even surprised? That's a genuine question. I expect to see comments responding to that question. So June walks away after being confronted with the news that the narcissistic hoe she idolizes is just using her, and because the person writing him is a simp, Tom is the one giving her sincere apologies after the fact. Or trying to, anyway.
Why are you ignoring my texts?
Tom's been texting me to apologize and I'm ignoring him.
So your friend, who you've continuously treated like shit and manipulated, that has been nothing but reasonable in his accusations against a person you can't trust, is texting you to apologize for confronting you about your obvious poor judgment that puts the entire dragon population in danger, and you're too good for his apology? I cannot fucking believe these words are about to come out of my mouth, but June doesn't deserve Tom. He is way too fucking good for her. And I hate saying that because he's such a dumbass most of the time. But you are the biggest bitch in the history of children's television, and I refuse to accept that a descendant of Hiccup is going to be subjected to having you as a love interest. Justice for Tom! He deserves Alex! So eventually all the kids discover that the dragons are acting out of sorts, so they go searching for what could be causing it and find that Sledbitch has been kidnapping dragons to experiment with how their fire reacts to dragon sight. And the reason their dragons are acting crazy is because she recorded the screech of the evolved Scuttleclaw we saw in the Hidden World, which, if you'll remember from season 5, has a dog whistle-like ability that makes dragons unruly.
That's why Thunder and the other dragons were so agitated.
So Sledkin was using me the whole time.
What? So the untrustworthy antagonist June was buddying up with happened to be evil all along? Nobody saw that coming. And by nobody, I mean June. June is literally the only person that did not see that coming.
Could have happened to anyone. Let's just focus on...
No, I'm pretty sure June's the only fucking person arrogant enough to fall for that shit. Hey, did I say earlier in my script that June says sorry for not taking Tom seriously and putting the Dragon Kingdom in danger? And yes, June does apologize for her actions later in the episode. Holy shit, I'm an idiot. Because as I rewatched it, I realized she literally doesn't. She just begrudgingly admits that Tom was right and cries about her emotionally absent stereotype of a mother, and Tom coddles her for it. Are you even going to make this character face a scrap of consequence for her unjust, manipulative actions ever?
I should take the hint and stop trying.
What? No way, no. You have so much to offer, June, no matter what anyone else says.
Yeah, June, don't you see? You have so much to offer to all the young kids watching this who see you as a role model that are going to grow up and mentally abuse everyone in their lives. Where else are they supposed to learn textbook manipulation strategies? They don't teach that on Paw Patrol. Those prison cells and watch lists aren't going to fill themselves. Survivor therapists are always going to need clientele. You have so much to offer, June! So they get caught by Sled Bitch and try to free the terrors, but she locks them in a room. But Alex gets them out because she's a queen. And after a fake-out chase with Linda, they confront Sled Bitch in town, where she gives a villain monologue and even does the fist thing.
I'm a world-renowned scientist, and I'll do whatever I must to leave my mark, which means using those dragons however I see fit.
Then they're all confronted by June's mom, who actually sides with the kids and tells Sled Bitch that all unapproved dragon experiments need to stop. Not sure why she didn't get put in jail for locking a group of minors in a room with a hazardous dragon, attempting to flee with classified information, and doing unregulated experiments through government funding, but TV, I guess. And then she walks away like a Sims character about to piss itself.
This is outrageous.
Skadoodle that little booty.
Then June's mom says she could use June's help with understanding the dragons, which is what she wanted all along, so everything's fucking peachy. And yeah, do not take that as the adult characters preparing to study dragons later in the season, because that never happens either. We never actually see June helping her mother. Nice. There. The June-centric episode this season is finally done. Fucking Christ. Now, like I said, this was probably my favorite of all the June-centric episodes we've had so far, and the only reason being it's the first time we see the other characters genuinely get fed the fuck up with her behavior and attempt to confront her with it. Look at this. This is Tom and Alex being equally pissed off at June, and it is beautiful. Now, of course, we're still at the bottom of the barrel here, because June is the worst character in the show and faces zero consequences for being such. But as unbelievably angry as I get watching her evade punishment for being such a bitch, it's also getting increasingly funnier to me how lacking in self-awareness the screenwriters are when they put out episodes like this. Hear my words. They actually think they're writing June to be a good character. How hilarious and increasingly hard to believe is that? At this point, I kind of want to see what they can do next. What, is June gonna barbecue Thunder in the next season and eat his corpse in front of Tom and then blame him because she was hungry and he didn't get her food in time? And you know the screenwriters are gonna treat it like she's in the right and he's in the wrong. It wouldn't fucking surprise me anymore. She basically did that anyways this episode by allowing Sled Bitch to record the Dragon World with the intent of publicly putting her findings in a book, which yes, she could have done anyways during the occasions where she snuck into the hidden world with Linda, but one of the main characters allows and even encourages it for the sake of acknowledgement and selfish notoriety, and never, I repeat, never faces consequences for it? Fuck this character. This is getting redundant. If I sat here and broke down all the reasons June is awful, we'd be here for 3 years. Now go to the next episode and get this purple-eyed narcissist off my fucking screen. Episode 4 is titled Web's Masters and focuses on the relationship between Eugene and his dragon webmaster as the kids discover the new giant realm of the hidden world. And I will state right now that this episode is my favorite of this season in a non-ironic way. The ironic one is coming, just wait. But this one is serious. Wow, what do you know? The episode centered on the likable main character's unlikable jerk brother, according to the screenwriters, is actually infinitely better than his bitch sisters. I'm sorry, I know I said I would stop, but it's too ironic not to mention. The episode begins with Tom and June sliding their dragons down an icy slope in the ice realm, presumably racing.
We can do this!
Move it or lose it, Cullerson!
No way, Wong!
And at first I was terrified this was a ripoff of the Hickstrid moment in Animal House from Riders of Berk, but thankfully the other characters show up, so it isn't really. And Alex wins the race, of course, because she's a queen.
Whoa!
What took you guys so long?
Then everyone gets in a debate over who is the most connected with their dragon.
There's no way you're more bonded to Webmaster than I am to Wu and Wei.
Well, I'm so connected to Thunder, we don't even need to talk about it. It just happens naturally.
Anyways, the scene is kind of filler, kind of foreshadowy, but the real treasure is when Webmaster walks away and the group go after him and it turns out he found a new dragon realm. Yay! Good God, I did not think it could get lazier than the kids looking through a hole in the ground last season and finding a full-on naturally lit jungle, but it can, because it just fades from the ice realm to the also sunlit giant realm, and we're never shown where the entrance actually is. Even the entrance to the separate part of the nature realm we saw in episode 1 was done better than this, but okay.
Quick, secret handshake!
Well, Eugene's ego certainly hasn't shrunk.
I swear to fucking God, June, if you are not the most hypocritical fucking bitch. So anyways, we're in the giant realm now. At least, I'm pretty sure. It's kind of funny how great of lengths this season goes to not show giant dragons, even though it's a realm full of giant dragons. I saw a lot of people theorizing that we could see returning dragons such as the Bewilderbeast and the Red Death in this new season because word got out that the giant realm would be the thing in season 6. And a lot of people were worried that this show was going to fuck up these very important dragons to the canon universe, but need not worry, OG fans. You seriously think this show has the budget to include a Bewilderbeast and Red Death? Seriously? Aside from the season finale, which does have one interesting new dragon and a returning Shellfire scene in Race to the Edge, the only giant dragon we see is whatever the fuck this anime protagonist sidekick shit is. I guess they could only afford to model an Alaskan bullworm looking dragon and called it good. Now they do get around showing the giant dragons in clever ways, one of which involves one of the most intentionally hilarious scenes in the whole season, which is coming at the end of this episode. But the reason I'm being so critical of this is because I genuinely do not understand why this, of all categories, is a realm. If you can't afford to model giant dragons in your show with no budget, then that's fine. But if you can't include giant dragons due to budget, then why have a giant realm at all? I mean, I know why. It's because they're trying to do some meta-universe bullshit where they mimic the 9 realms of Norse mythology and act like it has anything to do with the hidden world. And I'm assuming that since in Norse mythology, one of the 9 realms is the home of dwarfs, this was their way of replicating that into the show. And while I know a lot of people would hear that and applaud the showrunners for including something that subtly ties the universe into historically accurate mythology relative to Viking culture, I find it to be incredibly pretentious and tasteless. Yes, it would be awesome to tie actual Viking lore into the show, but why are you trying to include all this cultural nuance when 90% of the time you can't even get the lore of your own fictional universe right? The amount of times this show has straight up gotten the ability or characteristics of certain dragons and plots of the original franchise incorrect is unbelievable. And now you're actually trying to do some clever tie-ins with real mythology? Don't you think you should get your own franchise's mythology correct before you try that? Or do you just want to make up for the fact that you refuse to simply sit and watch through the franchise that you're adding to make sure all the facts are right by including something as half-baked as references to Viking culture? I mean, 50 hours of original content is super long compared to the 4 years the show has been in production. You aren't distracting anyone. We still see the ineptitude. You are terrible at hiding it. Anyways, that was just the obligatory rant about the new realm this season that doesn't have any real impact on my opinion of this episode in particular, because as I said, it actually has a pretty decent plot. As the kids are exploring the new terrain, they conclude that they can't fly upwards because one of the unseen giant dragons will attack them, and instead they're cornered cornered by a group of Death Gripper dragons, which we saw in movie 3. Their entrance is genuinely intimidating, and they're just a cool dragon in general to use. Especially with the conflict of this episode, which is Webmaster getting stung by the Death Gripper's venom that takes over the mind and makes the subject easy to manipulate, to which the Death Grippers lead him back to their nest, and Eugene, unaware of the venom's effects, is left confused as to why his dragon would just abandon him.
Eugene, stop!
Webmaster! What's going on?
And this episode is a prime highlight of what I love about Eugene's character in particular. Despite all the ways the showrunners make him the punching bag of the group, Eugene truly cares about his dragon, and we see this on full display here when Webmaster is taken, and Eugene refuses to leave until he returns. And there's even a great reference to uncharted territory in season 4, where Tom forced Eugene and Alex to leave the ice realm while their dragons were missing.
And don't even think about making us leave without him, Cullerson!
Don't worry, Eugene. We're not going anywhere. We'll find him.
Oh my god! A reference to an earlier, equally great episode where the characters underwent genuine change and development, and that growth is being not only brought up, but utilized? I am not kidding when I say that is the first time this show has ever done that. They actually implemented character development and referenced it for once, instead of the character reverting back to their easy-to-write default mode. Holy hell! See how long that lasts. And once Eugene enters the nest alone and sees that his bond with his dragon is corrupted by something he doesn't understand, the side of Eugene that the showrunners have been suppressing every episode for the sake of convenience finally comes out. He's confused and feels betrayed that his dragon left him, only to realize that he's being forcefully influenced by the venom once Tom shows up having read about the Death Grippers in the Dragon Book. And while Tom wards off the hostile dragons, it's up to Eugene to persuade Webmaster out of the hold the venom has over him.
It's just like the first time we met. Cornered by a fierce dragon. But we saved each other. We didn't even know each other yet, but we saved each other.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say it, and I'm gonna say it loud so everyone, including the showrunners who I know are going to see this review, can hear it. This scene with Eugene and Webmaster is the perfect example of the 9 Realms doing a callback to the original franchise correctly. Because as I'm sure a lot of fans have concluded so far, this is a very clear reference to the climax of movie 2, where Hiccup persuades Toothless to break free of the Bewilderbeast's mind control.
You'd never hurt him. You'd never hurt me.
In both scenes, the writer professes their care for their friend despite the corruption of their mind. It is a masterful take on what makes the How to Train Your Dragon franchise so special, and it does so by reverting back to the core root of the story, which is a boy and his unwavering friendship with a dragon.
I've never had a bond like this with anyone. Nothing should ever be able to break that. It was supposed to be me and you forever.
This scene with Eugene and Webmaster is the perfect snapshot of emotions we felt with Hiccup and Toothless. It isn't some half-baked copy and paste of iconic scenes from the OG franchise. It feels authentic. It feels earned. And no, what you're about to hear is not a figment of your wildest imagination. Audrey Greywind is about to admit this in front of the thousands who are going to watch this video. I hold the opinion that this scene with Eugene and Webmaster, despite being a callback to a scene in movie 2, is done better than the climax with Hiccup and Toothless. And let me tell you why. The confrontation with Drago riding Toothless during the climax of Dragons 2 has always evoked the core emotion of love and true power of Hiccup and Toothless's bond. But realistically, the scene never made a ton of sense. Drago just allows Hiccup to fly to Toothless and does nothing but watch as he comes out of his trance. As great as it was always a bit messy. Not to mention, aside from the obvious goal Hiccup had to save his best friend, he was also relying on Toothless to save Burke, and theoretically couldn't have done so without risking his life to save him. He had everything to lose by not regaining Toothless's trust. But in this scene with Eugene and Webmaster, Eugene really has nothing to lose. If the show was treating him like the self-centered asshole he's been for the past season and a half, he would have just left Webmaster to die and move on for the sake of self-preservation. But he doesn't. And why does he choose to stay?
I know we always talk a good game about being super popular and having tons of friends all over the world, but the truth is, You're my only real friend.
Hiccup's very justified motivation in movie 2 was to save his friend and the rest of Burke along with him. He was acting out of love, but also out of preservation for the tribe he was now chief of, while Eugene's one and only motivation in this scene is to get his friend back, no matter the cost. And it's not to suggest that Hiccup wouldn't also sacrifice himself solely to save Toothless, as we've seen him do countless times in the shows. But we know that Hiccup is a peacekeeper who cares more about his dragon than pretty much anything else. Eugene isn't like that. He doesn't let his raw emotions show like Hiccup did. We've only ever seen glimpses of that side of him, like in Uncharted territory. But here, in this scene, his walls come down, and he transforms into the character that made those who watched the show favor him over the other kids.
Even if that sting made you forget our bond, I haven't. I love you too much to ever forget.
That might be my single favorite line of dialogue in the entire show so far, because it truly showcases the character Eugene actually is, not the one the showrunners portray for the sake of mindless conflict. He's complex, he's sensitive, he's observant, and cares about his dragon in the exact same way Hiccup cared about Toothless. Hell, their connection feels more akin to Hiccup and Toothless's than Tom and Thunder's does. And once he's broken out of the trance, Webmaster saves Eugene from the nest and the group reconvenes. Okay, come on, that was fucking great. That is the one and only time I will forgive this show not showing a giant dragon in the giant realm.
Did you guys hear that? It sounded like granola cereal.
Gonzo!
And the episode ends with the other kids actually taking note of Eugene's newfound sincerity. In general, I think this episode is undoubtedly the best in the last 2 seasons. It really gave me the same hope for the screenwriters that I got while watching episodes like Uncharted Territory. And even aside from that, the Death Grippers were excellently utilized and made for some really great action. The pacing of the episode had a nice balance of tension throughout, and despite having clear limitations on the part of the budget, I think it was a good introduction to the new realm. And above all else, it was an excellent showcase of why I, and so many people who consume this show, love Eugene. Until the next episode when they completely fuck him over again, because of course they did! Episode 5 is titled Sled Bitch Stakeout and focuses on the kids trying to figure out what's causing strange occurrences in the hidden world while Sled Bitch is acting sketch and they try to prove that she's the one responsible. And not even 20 seconds into the episode, we see Eugene being a total asshole to his dragon.
Why is this taking you so long, Webbs? You have 8 legs. It should take you half the time.
You know what? This isn't even worth ranting about anymore. I've done it in every fucking season review so far. I can say with great certainty that every person watching this is more than familiar with this show's unwavering ability to do something actually good once in a blue moon, only to blow it up in a fucking atom cloud the very next episode. How sad is that? It's literally worse than them never trying at all. All the compliments I gave the last episode, meaningless. Don't get mad at me. How am I supposed to take it seriously when this show doesn't take itself seriously? Eugene's just a bumbling asshole for the rest of the season? Super. I cannot wrap my head around this. It's like the screenwriters are trying to make him the Snotlout of the group without putting 2 nanoseconds of thought into why Snotlout was always an asshole. Because if they did, they would know that 95% of Snotlout's behavior in the OG franchise was just an act. He was also sensitive and had a lot of depth that was masterfully showcased in Race to the Edge. But he also had a reason to revert back to asshole mode every episode, because he was a product of his culture and the family he grew up in, and had to put on this act because he believed it was the only way people would take him seriously. Why is Eugene an asshole again? There is no reason. I don't get it.
Even if that sting made you forget our bond, I haven't. I love you too much to ever forget.
Sometimes, Eugene, you do things just to be a good person.
You're wasting your breath. Eugene cares about Eugene.
So yeah, that's awful, but the saving grace is that Sled Bitch Stakeout is easily the so bad it's funny episode of this season. And believe me, this shit gets wild, so strap in and bring a barf bag, you're gonna need it. The episode begins with May getting mad at Sled Bitch because apparently she's been mining Dragonsight without authorization, so she's officially put on suspension until further notice. And sometime later, the kids are flying in the nature realm and see that the dragons are acting aggressive and unusual for no particular reason, and happen to find an injured cavern crasher that looks derpy as hell. You know those celebrity drawn from memory memes? It looks like they deleted the Cavern Crasher model from Race to the Edge by accident and had to make a new one from memory alone, which I guess also altered its personality because it is for some reason cool with D'Angelo walking up to its injured leg and treating it, despite it being one of the most aggressive dragons in Race to the Edge with zero examples of it being docile around humans. Oh, that's right, the showrunners didn't watch Race to the Edge before making the 9 Realms. I forget every season, sorry dudes. So the kids determine that some type of man-made explosion injured the dragon, and given that deposits of dragonite are missing in the area, they determine that Sledbitch is responsible. So everyone confronts her, but when she claims she hasn't left her dome and they can check the security footage to prove it, it seems that she's telling the truth. But Tom is convinced she's the one responsible, so for the remainder of the episode, the kids have to stake her out while explosions and dragonite depletion continue to happen in the hidden world, despite Sledbitch not leaving her dome at all. Oh, you're probably forming a theory in your head right now and telling yourself it's way too stupid to actually be what's happening, but you'd actually be correct. Just wait. It's so good. But you know what's not good? The obligatory Tom and June romantic tension scene for the season. And it's happening right now. Hope you haven't eaten recently.
Come in, Agent Tom. Meet me in the treehouse for snacks.
Secret agents! I haven't thought about that game in forever. It's still fun hanging out, right?
Totally.
Yeah, you think you have it bad? You know how long I had to stare at this scene in the edit? And if you're wondering if I'm going to go on yet another long-winded rant on why Tom and June have zero chemistry and Tom and Alex would make an infinitely better couple, no, I don't think I have the energy anymore. I think it's pretty common sense by now. Most people who watch the show favor Alex and hate June anyways, so the showrunners are 100% kidding themselves at this point. But it's just so cheap. Oh, Tom and June knew each other as kids, therefore they're in love. That's how it works, right? Shit, half the people I knew as kids are on the sex offender registry now. Pretty sure it means nothing that they happen to have playdates when they were 6 years old. June is still a bitch, and Tom is still a dumbass with brain damage for looking at this and somehow feeling romantic attraction. I guess narcissistic, mentally abusive women are his type. And I wish I could say that wasn't realistic. And you know what the most fucked up part of all of this is? At the start of my first viewing of this episode, I was actually just about to tweet John Tellegen directly and say how impressed I was with the coherence of this new season. A lot of it probably had to do with the charm of episode 4 going to my head, but I do think season 6 has a better assortment of not terrible episodes compared to the others. But there was a small voice in my head telling me to hold off sending that tweet until I finished episode 5, and thank God I listened, because zero compliments are deserved after you dump this garbage on us. In fact, that small voice in my head probably was God. Even he doesn't want this couple to happen. No fucking way. Even Hulu is like, no, you don't need to see that. So despite Sledbitch not leaving her dome and her only contact with the outside world being Linda from what they can see, the kids find that explosions are still happening in the hidden world. Tom is convinced that Sledbitch is still responsible, but the group determine that it's impossible because she hasn't gone anywhere, so they decide to pay Buzzsaw a visit. Yeah, remember him? The other antagonist and his ethnicity-changing logger henchman? Oh, that's right, I have to explain this every time because for some reason a lot of new viewers tune in to whatever season review is posted at the time without watching the previous ones. It's okay, I'm always up for talking about this. This man is Winston. Winston is black, right? Well, when he was first introduced in season 2, there was an entire scene where he was not black. He was white. They fucking somehow messed up and made him the wrong ethnicity for a whole scene. It was a big thing. I messaged John Tellegen about it directly. It was apparently due to a lighting problem. It became a forever meme on my channel. And now every time I see him, he is the ethnicity changing logger. So there you go. Yeah, they still exist apparently. They're chilling out in the ice realm baking bread, and Tom decides to have a standoff with him, demanding to know if he's the one causing the explosions and stealing dragon site. And Buzzsaw's like, nah bro, why would I want to rock when I'm the king of dragons? Or whatever dumb motivation he has this season. This scene is absolutely nothing but filler, by the way, because Alex's sensors indicate another explosion in the nature realm has happened, and they just fuck off. Are you guys ready for this so bad it's funny shit? I hope so, cause it gets pretty great. When they go to investigate the explosion, surprise! It turns out it is Sledbitch stealing the dragon site by way of dynamite. Where the hell a scientist at a remote research facility managed to get her hands on dynamite? I don't fucking know, but I have a sneaking suspicion she's in cahoots with the showrunners. You know they're up to some sketchy shit if they're writing something like this. Yeah, so unfortunately the dynamite stock was depleted, so we won't be able to take the explosive strategy. Okay, but wouldn't death by spontaneous explosion look a little suspicious anyways? She lives in Missouri. Fair point. Besides, she'll be easy to off in a single hit. With all the forests and cliffs around that area, all she has to do is take a little walk and disappear forever. Okay, but we'd be assuming that she goes outside a lot. Yeah, what's the problem with that? She's a YouTuber. Shit. So Sledbitch gives her villain speech and tells the kids to fuck off because she's not leaving without blowing up the wall beside them to get the dragon site. And Tom's solution is to wrestle her for the detonator. And she even says it's just to get an amount of the crystal the size of a basketball.
There's a chunk of dragon site in that wall the size of a basketball, and I'm not leaving until it's in my hands.
So, you know, not that fucking much, and it's probably meaningless in the grand scheme of things, but apparently it's worth getting in a bomb fight over. Like, if it were the life of a dragon or something, maybe that would be understandable, but he's fighting her for a rock. And the detonator falls and the shit blows up.
And I dipped my cookie and the shit blew up.
And the explosion causes a cave-in around solely the kids and their dragons. Somehow Sledbitch is fine despite having stood 2 feet away from exploding dynamite. And they spend like 10 seconds trying to help the kids before deciding to leave them to die.
You saw it. They did this to themselves. There's nothing we could do. Now let's get out of here.
And meanwhile, the kids and their dragons try to dig their way out, but they can't do it fast enough and they start to suffocate to death. This is in the episode, guys. I know I exaggerate, but this is an actual plot point. They even say their final goodbyes and shit.
If this is the end, I'm glad I'm here with all of you.
Me too.
What the fuck? This is awesome. The Nine Realms needs more child death, to be honest. This is how you make compelling television. But of course, the Cavern Crasher D'Angelo helped earlier in the episode saves them, which I do think was a nice reincorporation. Again, the docile nature of it still makes no sense, but its ability to collapse its skeleton to squeeze through small cracks is well utilized for the situation of caved-in suffocating children. So they get out, and back at the base, Sledbitch rehearses lying to the kids' parents about killing them?
I am so sorry. They're missing. Oh, I am so sorry. Yeah, that's it.
Fuck yeah. But obviously her and Linda are confronted and she pulls the whole "I was in my dome the whole time, check the cameras" shit. And I know what you're thinking. What, did she fucking dig down like a Minecraft playthrough through the concrete floor and 100 feet of rock and soil to get to the hidden world from her dome? And yes!
Oh my. What? This is how she did it. We never saw her leave her dome because she tunneled her way right down into the dragon world.
How? What the fuck? The Nine Realms is no longer set in a reality-based world anymore, right? Like, that's always been up for debate, but the show continued to take itself seriously this whole time, so there's no way to be sure. But now, they're just fucking trolling us. Is it Minecraft? Did she dig down like Minecraft? I swear to God, if she did, I'm gonna lose my shit. Oh. No, you're trolling right now. Oh my God, it's like Minecraft. I was fucking around. She actually dunked. This show's lost its goddamn mind. It's so good. Sled bitch dug through a foot of concrete and who the fuck knows how many feet of dirt and rock to mine a fucking crystal? Do you people just write down plot ideas unfiltered and turn the first draft into episodes without a nanosecond of thought into whether or not it's the dumbest thing someone has ever put on paper? I'm pretty sure Sled Bitch has only been on house arrest for like a few days max. Even if she'd been unlawfully under house arrest at her own facility for months, this shit would not make sense. Do you know how long it would take to tunnel through just the concrete alone? Fucking forever. Jay Baruchel taught me that.
You guys okay? I broke my ass in half.
So Sled Bitch and Linda, I'm pretty sure, get the fuck out of there before anyone can stop them. And I would just like to mention this here. This woman, in episode 5 alone, got suspended from her job and placed under house arrest for unethical practices, lied to her co-workers, and dug a whole ass tunnel to continue her illegal collection of dragonite, blew up a group of children, then willingly left them to suffocate to death, and then prepared to lie to the parents of those missing children for the sake of self-preservation, and when she was about to be held accountable for all of that, she ran the fuck away before anyone could do anything about it. And 2 episodes ago, this was the same woman the showrunners were saying, oh yeah, don't her and June have so much in common? If that shit does not prove my point, I swear to God. Just saying.
Mom, what if she tells the world about dragons?
Wilma will keep the secret. She'll want all the credit for discovering Dragonsight.
Okay, will someone please explain to me what that line even meant? Sled Bitch will keep the secret about dragons because she wants credit for discovering Dragonsight? What do those two things even have to do with each other? If she really wants credit for discovering a rare crystal, then wouldn't she also want credit for making the biggest geological find in human history? It's not like she doesn't have photographic evidence of everything in the hidden world by courtesy of fucking somebody, I can't remember who. I'm really just convinced that the screenwriter couldn't think of a reason for them not to be pressed about the secret getting out when Sled Bitch left, so they just threw some words on a page as a justification and prayed nobody would think too hard about it. Olivia may as well have just said, Wilma will keep the secret. She likes wearing sparkly butt plugs around the laboratory. If you switched out those 2 lines, it would change absolutely nothing. Except my headcanon that Sled Bitch is a lesbian top, but that's irrelevant. So Olivia mentioned something about Dragonsight being an oxygen source that's activated when dragons breathe fire on it, and it's supposed to be a thing where if the Dragonsight is all mined out, the dragons won't be able to live there anymore.
I shared my findings with her. The Dragonsight's strange oxygenating properties, its potential value.
Removing it could make the hidden world uninhabitable for dragons.
You're right.
Which is a very anticlimactic revelation to what the crystals do that we've been building to for like 5 seasons now. Maybe it'd be a cool logistical concept if everything around it wasn't so stupid. Like, what about the abundance of dragons that don't breathe fire that this show has introduced so far? How the fuck are they breathing? Or like the fact that these scientists are willing to act as criminals to get credit for a rock that produces oxygen, when there are literal fucking dragons flying around that I guess are not nearly as impressive or important in the scientific community, or even the humanity community. And then it ends with all of them striking superhero poses and vowing to fight Sled Bitch if she returns. Wow. What a stupid episode. Don't get me wrong, it was hilarious, and I'm pretty sure it was not trying to be, which makes it even better. But it is the last time we see Sled Bitch this season. Sorry, June, you'll have to find another narcissist role model in the meantime. Episode 6 is titled Poison Control and focuses on Tom and the kids trying to find an antidote for Thunder after he is shot by a poison dart from Buzzsaw. And the episode begins in the Ice Realm where Buzzsaw still lives apparently. We saw him briefly in episode 5, but here we see that he is still attempting to capture dragons for the sake of becoming the Dragon King, I guess. Again, that is a plot point that is never explained, and considering it's been ongoing for 2 seasons now, I'm assuming we're never going to get get an explanation. Like I said in my season 5 review, this show seems to only know how to do one type of antagonist, and that is over-the-top narcissist, greedy monster who only cares about notoriety and themselves and will step over everyone to get what they want. And how June is not considered an antagonist given that context will continue to evade me. So Buzzsaw watches as his two henchmen return on their gronkles and...
You did not forget to make him black again! You mean to tell me you motherfuckers have done this twice now? What the fuck?
Aha! Here they come. My favorite working class myrmidons. Welcome back, boys!
No, I did not see that correctly. No. 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 No, 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 no. Oh my god, he's right! No way. No, no, hold on. I'm losing my fucking mind. What? No fucking way! How? How does this happen twice? You cannot tell me that this is not the funniest shit you've ever seen. How does this happen multiple times? John, you've got some explaining to do. Okay, you know what? Fuck Tom and June making me vomit last episode. You just redeemed yourself, season 6. I have been waiting for over a fucking year now for you to pull some whack shit like what you did in season 2, and you finally did it. And it's the same mistake? How is this even possible in the first place? That is spectacular. I don't want anyone to twist my words and make it sound like this was a negative thing. This just became one of my favorite parts of season 6. Thank you, 9 Realms. I feel whole again. Still does not make up for the leg incident. Only Tom Alex can save you there, but this is a step in the right direction. So Buzzsaw and his henchmen determine that they need to get the dragon book from the kids in order to really take over the dragon world, because that's what he wants apparently. And at the surface, the kids get notification from Alex's sensors that something is afoot in the nature realm, and when they go there, they're ambushed by Buzzsaw, who has developed some type of poison dart that successfully hits Thunder. Buzzsaw tells Tom that he has the antidote and will only give it to him if he trades over the dragon book, and to meet him in the ice realm alone if he chooses to make the deal. Of course, this ends up being a total lie, as Buzzsaw does not have the antidote and opts to instead tie up and almost poison a child to death, but we'll get to that later. I really just wanted to lay out the summary like that so I could make the very obvious observation that this episode pretty much rips the plot straight from Triple Cross in season 6 of Race to the Edge. In that episode, Vigo, the primary antagonist in the show, lures Hiccup and Toothless to an island alone and supposedly slips Toothless some type of poison, and uses the supposed antidote to hang over Hiccup's head in order to get him to help in taking down the other villains that have betrayed him. It's a whole thing, and I don't really want to go into much detail because I recommend just watching Race to the Edge for yourself. It is infinitely better than the 9 Realms. But in terms of the plot similarities, just as Buzzsaw did in Poison Control, Vigo was also lying about there being an antidote, with the only difference being that Toothless was in fact never poisoned at all, and it turns out Thunder actually was poisoned, and D'Angelo helps find the antidote as they race against time. And if it weren't for that very slight difference, I would probably be a lot more angry at this episode for lazily ripping yet another plot from the OG franchise. I mean, that's literally the second time in season 6 alone, given the similarities between dragons everywhere and how to start a dragon academy, and it isn't even the last time it'll happen this season. But the reason I'm not that upset about this episode in particular is because when the poorly written, horribly developed characters aren't on screen, it actually contains some really good scenes akin to what we saw in Eugene's episode this season. Notably with D'Angelo, as I think the screenwriters finally decided to give his character something useful to do and it didn't feel forced or repetitive to his usual internal conflicts. Tom is worried and confused about how to help his dying dragon, and given that D'Angelo is the doctor of the group, he feels an immense pressure to do everything in his power to help, which involves leading June and Eugene to the nature realm to look for a cure, and even trying to help with the few resources they do have.
Maybe the Speed Stinger antivenom. Your mom and the Gonzaleses helped develop it.
Okay, I have to stop for a second. You can't let me compliment you for 10 seconds without you doing something ridiculous, can you? So I guess they did develop a Speed Stinger antivenom after that one-off line I made fun of last season. But Olivia helped develop it? Olivia is a fucking geologist. By that I hope D'Angelo means she helped simply because they drew her blood after the attack and that is the only extent. Because God help anyone who relies on Olivia for medical emergencies. Hell, all the adults are off overdosing on ketamine this whole episode anyways. Who do you think supplies it? She's looking kinda sus. Anyways, back to the compliments. It completely fits with D'Angelo's character to be so passionate about veterinary work and to try to save dragons using the thing that he's skilled at. And when he believes he's failed, he's torn apart by it. It's really a great way to showcase D'Angelo's character in an episode that really isn't even dedicated to him. It's about Tom and Thunder. And even D'Angelo aside, there's a spectacular scene in this episode that is on par with Eugene in episode 4. And it involves, surprise, surprise, Tom and Alex, who are left alone with Thunder while the others search for the antidote.
And what about you?
I'm just worried about him.
They'll be back soon with the flowers.
Alex tries to comfort Tom, who's in obvious distress over the state of Thunder, and Tom confides in her, saying that even with the wild and adventurous life he lived before, having found Thunder means more to him than all of that.
He means everything to me, Alex. I don't know what I'll do if this doesn't turn out okay.
You know I understand.
Look, I'm not gonna go into another 5-minute rant about these two and why they have such incredible chemistry over Tom and June, even though I very much could. If you're interested in hearing that, just go watch my season 5 review. But the point still stands stronger than ever before, and I really hope that, even with my edited down versions of the episodes, you understand what I mean when I say the dynamic between these two is unparalleled. I mean, this scene lasts less than a minute, and it's still better than anything we've seen between Tom and June in all 6 seasons combined. Even down to Alex offering up feathers for him to ride at the drop of a hat when it seems he has to rush off to make the trade in time.
Going to get the antidote. Are you okay with me taking feathers?
Of course, whatever you need.
Yeah, I think Ian from Burtcast said it best when we were discussing this moment.
Of course it's with Alex, because fuck.
She gets all the
Yeah.
good stuff.
Because June wouldn't fucking care.
Yeah.
June would be like, oh, boo-hoo.
Oh man, I have a whole note where I'm like, oh look, Tom and Alex having 1,000 times better chemistry than Tom and June. Again. And aside from the characters, I think the pacing of the episode is pretty good. There's a tangible tension that presents itself naturally, and they even provide quite a variation of tension when D'Angelo returns with what he believes to be the antidote, but it turns out it isn't. And the way they come to this conclusion actually made sense. The Hobgobbler dragon was also shot with the poisonous dart, but remained unaffected, so they determined that it's probably a food source that the dragon eats that provides immunity to the poison. That's a logical leap to make, and the first time this show has ever had one of those, I'm pretty sure. But unfortunately, that is the last of the compliments I'm going to give this episode, because as I said, anything that doesn't focus on the actually good characters is awful, i.e. Buzzsaw. When the flowers D'Angelo believed to be the antidote fail, Tom takes feathers to make the trade with Buzzsaw in the Ice Realm, and obviously he was lying about there being an antidote, and for some reason tells Tom this while he's still there.
Give me the real antidote!
Sorry, no can do. Because there is no antidote.
Why would he do that when he could have let him go back and try to save Thunder, only for the dragon to inevitably die? Is that not exactly what you wanted? Oh, it wasn't? You wanted to kidnap Tom? A child? And then poison him to death while tied up in front of you?
I wonder what the effect of these poison darts will have on a human. What do you say we find out, Tommy?
Boy, stop it. Get some help. But it turns out the antidote is actually the slugs that were crawling on the flowers, and D'Angelo figures this out in time to cure Thunder, and everyone goes to the Ice Realm to save Tom.
Don't fuck with me! I have the power of God and anime on my side!
Wait, And they subdue the henchmen, but Buzzsaw's Timberjack shows up, and he escapes with the dragon book while the kids vow to retrieve it, but before the episode ends, I swear to God, if it's Dagger, I'm gonna fucking... No way! Come god! Oh my god! This season is on some other shit. I can't even describe it. Okay, Nine Realms showrunners, I see you. Remember how I called this asshole not Dagger for like 2 seasons after he was introduced? Look, I know this was just a very accurate prediction on my end because they were going so out of their way to make Buzzsaw a Dagger knockoff, but understand how easy it is for me to look at this and believe I have influenced this show. I like to believe the showrunners are just absorbing the criticisms and rolling with them like they were masterminds all along. Again, I'm exaggerating, but the reason I even think that is because this one moment of Buzzsaw looking at Dagger's picture is the last we see of this reference.
Now that looks like a Dragon King.
Buzzsaw's pretty prominent in the season finale and never once mentions the mysterious book figure he admires. It'll probably come up later, but as of right now, this is just a one-off cameo and that makes it so much funnier. Hey, whatever gets us through this season faster, let's finish this together. Episode 7 is titled In Too Deep, and it is the 6th season finale of the Nine Realms. The episode follows the kids attempting to save a dragon in the giant realm from Buzzsaw after he attempts to capture it, and the group ended up dropping it in a body of water while it was still tied up. We open with everyone in the giant realm as Buzzsaw has somehow managed to trap this giant dragon known as an octofin, and while admiring it, he shoves the dragon book up his ass.
Oh, I see how it's gonna be. You'll do well to remember who.
Wait a minute!
I mean, come on. I know pulling things out of nowhere is a recurring thing even in the OG shows, but you couldn't cut to any other angle after the fact. And in regards to the octofin, it has a pretty cool design that fits with the show, all things considered. If only it were being subdued by an actually interesting enemy that was threatening in any way. Oh my goodness me. The dialogue in this scene is written at a level so unprecedented, I bet the Academy members are crying themselves to sleep for not giving these screenwriters every Emmy imaginable.
I bet you feel pretty guilty for handing Buzzsaw the how-to manual for the entire dragon world, huh? Stop right there, Buzzsaw! And Goose, give me back the book.
Okay, sure. That sounds like a great idea. Not.
Got him!
Wait a damn minute.
No, he is not white again! What the frick? Lighting mix up my fucking ass. What is that?
What the fuck is that? He just changed races again!
They gotta be doing this shit on purpose. You don't do this by accident 3 times. Yeah, I'm not even surprised anymore. You just gave up, didn't you? I would too, to be fair. You can only look at this show for so long without wanting to end it all. Take that from me. So Buzzsaw and his race-changing henchmen escape while the kids try to hold the dragon up. Not sure how your 5 dragons are unable to do it as opposed to Buzzsaw's 2, but okay. And they end up dropping it and the water animation is pretty great here. Yeah, don't get used to that. So now they have to figure out how to get to and release the dragon without knowing how long it can survive in the water. And the kids determine they can use the bathysphere from all the way back in season 1 to go to the bottom of the lake and free the octofin, and they spend like 5 minutes arguing over whether or not to do this so the screenwriters can fill runtime and fuck with Thunder by dropping it on his tail. And they obviously decide to steal it. Tom, June, and D'Angelo go down while Alex and Eugene stay at the top to monitor things.
We have an extra seat.
That's okay. I'm not a fan of being stuck in a tin can a mile under pitch black water.
And a majority of the rest of the episode is Fuckboy McGee and Bitchatron acting stupid while D'Angelo tries to keep them from dying.
I want this thing brought back in pristine condition, not a scratch.
Okay, Mr. Frowny Fins.
Fish joke, because we're underwater.
I think I can actually hear the distant echo of the screenwriter a year in the past yelling, "Fuck this shit, they don't pay me enough," as they wrote this episode. Fuck this shit, they don't pay me enough. At least you're getting paid. Hey, what did you expect when you became a screenwriter? We're trying to kill a human being here. Surely you've had complications like this before. No, this bitch never leaves her house. How are we supposed to get a hit on her if we don't even know where she is? Oh, that fucking casting agency again. Can you shut up? We're trying to scheme in here. Hey, could you tell me how to get out of this building? Who exactly are you? Oh, I'm Audrey. I thought I was here to audition for the live-action How to Train Your Dragon, but it turns out they wanted me to... It doesn't matter. Can you tell me how to get out of here? Take a left down the hall. Thanks. What's that? Nothing. Okay. Bye. Tail her right now. Go tail her right now. Now, once again, you may be noticing the similarities of this episode with another of Race to the Edges, and you would be correct, because In Too Deep is pretty much Dire Straits, but on meth. Because if you remember, Dire Straits was an episode in Race to the Edge Season 4 where Hiccup had to take a diving bell to one of Burke's channels to remove a sea-dwelling dragon that was chained there by the hunters for the purpose of sinking Burke's trade ships, and of course faces a lot of challenges doing so. Not completely identical, but the similarities between it and this season finale are too much not to mention, or at least acknowledge that they ripped off yet another plot from Race to the Edge. That is literally the third time this season. And again, go watch Race to the Edge for yourselves if this sounds interesting, because you will have a much better experience watching that over horrible characters and somehow shittier swimming animation, despite this being made 5 years after the previous show. But anyways, things fuck up of course, because they think they've secured the dragon and the bathysphere gets fucked up, and take a wild fucking guess as to who they pinned that on. And suddenly the Shellfire Dragon, also seen in Race to the Edge, appears and severs their tether to the surface, which leaves them and the Octofin stranded at the bottom. And now their only chance of getting out alive is freeing the Octofin in the hopes that it will help them get back to the surface because it's grateful for their help, I guess.
We're upside down, so opening the hatch will allow him to swim out without the water getting in. Like a diving bell.
Get it? D'Angelo referenced the diving bell. See? We're self-aware that we're only referencing things from Race to the Edge, and definitely not stealing plots we hope you don't remember from the previous show because we ran out of ideas. So Tom frees the Octofin, and it helps them like he thought it would because trust or some shit. I would have really loved to watch this thing just chomp him the moment its mouth was freed, and that's the end of the show right there, but nah. And as it brings them to the surface, there's a fight with the Shellfire. It's pretty cool to look at, I guess, and if the script and characters in the episode weren't so annoying, I would probably give it more points. But just because you dress up a turd with a tiny bow on top doesn't make it any less of a turd. You can't pick and choose elements of your episode to put effort into. And shit, writing should be the easy part, not the big action scenes that take months to animate and render. You are just putting words on a piece of paper and you manage to screw it up immensely every time. Fuck. So yeah, the dragon's free and everything's fine. Or is it? Because Tom and the kids fly back to base, and what's this? Has the government nuked Project Icarus and blown everyone up inside like I predicted at the end of season 5? Has the show finally been saved? Lol, no, it's just Buzzsaw.
King of Dragons. Let this serve as a warning. You are no longer welcome in my domain.
You know what? As much as I hate the dagger ripoff of this show, at least he's finally bringing some carnage to these stupid adults at this stupid project.
Greetings, citizens of Rake Town. Looking out at your shocked faces, I see my presence comes as a surprise. Guess your kids don't tell you everything.
I don't know, there's been this thing kind of periodically throughout the season where the kids mention Buzzsaw and how they should keep the fact that he's in the hidden world and trying to kill them from their parents because it would deter their parents from letting them go down there.
Still haven't mentioned the hatchet-wielding lunatic that lives in the realms.
Yeah, our folks might think twice about letting us go down there.
Which makes no fucking sense at all. If your parents are seriously okay with letting a group of 15-year-old kids ride fire-breathing reptiles over hundreds of feet of air where they could at any point fall off, get roasted to death, drown, be eaten, or die a multitude of terrible deaths, would they really care if there also happened to be a lunatic bush person running around down there as well? How is he possibly more dangerous than anything else in the hidden world? Because he's a person? Yes, he did kidnap Tom and attempt to poison him, but it's not like that was not easily preventable. Any of your dragons could have barbecued him to death at this point. If he's such a threat, then just kill him already. It's not like it wouldn't be self-defense. Shit, even right now, does this billion-dollar research facility not have security? isn't that Phil's job?
I am Security Chief Philip Baker.
Just shoot the motherfucker. He's literally burning people alive as you speak. Just shoot him. Just take out a gun and shoot his ass. What are you waiting for? Blast his ass out of the sky. You act like you can't do shit. But maybe they're saving that for season 7 because this is where the season finale fucking ends. Props for an actual cliffhanger this time as opposed to whatever the fuck the end of season 5 was. But with how they handled the transition between seasons 5 and 6, I'm really left wondering what kind of bizarre shit they're gonna do with the start of season 7. Watch it be another month time skip where Project Icarus has turned into Call of Duty with all the kids running around with machine guns, jumping in trenches, and firing at Buzzsaw and his henchmen to avoid more people burning alive. I'm just kidding, that would be way too interesting for this show. I honestly don't even feel like making a prediction because whatever it is, they're gonna fuck it up. Only time will tell, and my guess is not that much time because season 7 is on the horizon, y'all. Yay me. Alright, and that was the least offensive season of the entire 9 Realms so far, and I still managed to make this review as long as it is. But I think it's fair to say that I've spent more time in this review complimenting things as opposed to my others. Take that, people who think I'm incapable of finding good things to say about a show I hate, despite me doing it every video. I would also say that a majority of the reason I found season 6 less offensive than the others is due to the number of times they actually referenced Hiccup's story in comparison to the previous seasons. I believe the only time it's really brought up this time around is episode 1, and even though it was, of course, poorly done, they don't really touch on it for the remainder of the season, and I think that really worked to its benefit. The more time you spend on making your own characters and storylines good, rather than pulling from the original franchise for the sake of novelty, the better your show will be. Funny how that works. Now, that isn't to say sticking to that logic will save them either. Because of how heavily they decided to weave Hiccup's story into the earlier seasons of this show, they kind of have to have a resolution with it at some point. If they don't, it'll feel even more forced and unnecessary, and if they do, it will only make this show worse. Neither option is good, and this is the corner they've written themselves into. And even with the good things they have done organic to their story, they continuously screw it up to the point where I'm inclined to disregard all good things they do. To give Eugene an episode that explores the intricacies of his character and how selfless he can really be by choosing to sacrifice himself for Webmaster even though he's under the influence of Death Gripper venom, only for 20 seconds into the following episode, him to be insulting his dragon and acting dumbfounded at the idea of helping for the sake of being a good person. It screams that either the screenwriters for each episode have zero communication for the sake of making a consistent narrative, or they are communicating and just don't give a shit. Once again, the showrunners are acting out of whatever is convenient to the plot they want to write, rather than creating consistently developed characters and storylines, and that is terrible. The original shows weren't like this. If something happened, it remained consistent. When Dagger had his redemption arc, he changed from an unhinged maniac to someone who worked tirelessly to keep his friends and family safe and stayed that way for the rest of the show. When Astrid expressed to Hiccup halfway through Race to the Edge season 6 that she felt invisible to him, he apologized, and they spent the rest of the season acting visibly more intimate with each other. It is possible to develop a character in one episode and show that development beyond the 22 minutes dedicated to it. Why the 9 Realms refuses to do this, I can't understand. I'm not asking for anything extravagant here. I make jabs at the lackluster animation, but that isn't the big issue. I'm not talking about incredible animation quality that the show can't afford because of budget restraints. I'm talking about words on a piece of paper. The script has always been this show's problem. And for those claiming I'm just a hater who won't change my mind about this show, I want it to be good. I have stated in this video that it has actually done a scene in this new season better than the original franchise was able to do it. Now, that is not to say I'm going to take it seriously, because as I've made it clear, they have already damned themselves in the eyes of the original fans with what they pulled in season 4. And you know what you gotta do to make it up to us. Hashtag Tom Alex. But what I'm saying is that the potential is obviously there, and to throw it away time and time again is just sad. I would rather the show not try at all than to see glimmers of something great only for them to tear it away for the sake of doing what's easy. It's like I said in my season 5 review, the show has quite literally damned itself to now making even the best moments completely meaningless. Because we know they aren't above tossing out meaningful character growth for the sake of making a lackluster plot work, or making one of the main characters they want us to like look better than someone else, even though it has the exact opposite effect. The showrunners need to understand that they can't force us into liking anything or any character. What brings an audience to care about a character is depth, organic growth that takes time, and above all else, consistency. I mean, June is consistently bitchy, but you get what I mean. Chances are, however, this is all coming too late, because I have a feeling this show's conclusion is right around the corner. I can't say that season 7 will be the last, but I have a feeling things will begin wrapping up rather quickly. And all we can do is hope that they do more of what we saw in episode 4 as they go forward with the next season. And for the love of Christ, give Alex her own episode again. The fuck is your problem? And that concludes my season 6 review of Dragons: The Nine Realms. I hope you all enjoyed. I worked really fucking hard to get this out before season 7 is announced. I don't know if I managed to pull it off at this stage. If not, shit, I have to applaud the showrunners for their stamina. Even I'm running out of steam at this point. Good on them for having the stomachs to stare at this show for several years now. As usual, I'm gonna send off this video by replying to some of your comments from my season 5 review. The best way this could end is at the end we find out Snotlout was telling the story of what he thinks the future would be, and Astrid be like, "That's dumb, you're dumb," and everyone laughs and goes, "Yeah, that would be pretty dumb, huh?" In the timeline, insanity restored. You know what? I hadn't even considered that. I've been saying for forever now that if they actually bring in the characters from the OG franchise in a flashback or something, I will riot. I don't think they're going to. You know Jay Baruchel would say no to this shit. But you know what? If this happens, this would be the only scenario where I would be okay with that. Aha, it was all just a massive troll after all. DreamWorks would never, but I really wish they would. It would right every wrong this series has committed. We can only dream. Wait, Olivia says her great-grandfather had the last name Haddock, but that would mean at the absolute least that 46 generations of people got married, none of them being single, and decided to keep the same last name, which is a nothing number. Chance of happening. Actually, the inbreeding theory makes a lot of sense now. Okay, yes, factually that's very true and makes no sense in this show, but also, I've been complaining for God knows how long that one of the main things this show lacks is consistency. Things just happen for no reason and most of the time they're never brought up again. But the most consistent thing the Nine Realms has done so far is introduce the inbreeding topic to the How to Train Your Dragon universe. Has there been one of my reviews where I don't mention it, dragons or humans? I don't think so. If that is the number one thing that remains consistent in your show, I would be worried. I'm just saying. This one says that once the Nine Realms finishes, the How to Train Your Dragon community should collab to completely rewrite the show. Rewriting characters and giving them actual development, creating actual conflicts, rewriting episodes, even getting rid of some and replacing them with new ones. Pretty sure there are already people doing that, but I think it'd be better if it was a collaboration effort from the entire community. Interesting idea. Definitely not something I've been considering and possibly working on while waiting for the series to come to an end. Nah, not at all. Honestly, a lot of the Tom discovers his heritage problems could have been easily remedied if the show had the adults be archaeologists, stationed at a dig where New or Old Burke was once located. That way Tom could still find artifacts and stuff without it all being somehow in the hidden world. Guys, I've said it 100 times. The archaeological finds in the hidden world make no sense, and I'm positive they will continue to not make sense. How did specifically Hiccup's descendant find not only Toothless's family, but all of the artifacts he left behind 1,000 years ago? Like, do the showrunners genuinely believe that their audience is so dumb that they won't be able to see how ridiculous and stupid it is? I have already asked that question, I know. It's just unbelievable. I don't even watch this series, but I love watching you be angry at this show breaking How to Train Your Dragon's lore. Honestly, that's why I make these. I know a majority of hardcore How to Train Your Dragon fans, or even casual fans, are never going to watch the 9 Realms. And while I do recommend checking out the show if you're going to heavily critique it like I do, I can't in good conscience tell people in the fandom to sit down and watch this show just to see how it affects the canon lore of the OG franchise. So that's why I'm here. NBC Universal is never too happy about it. Since my season 4 review, every single video I upload that has Dragons content in it gets claimed the second I upload it, and I have to spend at minimum a week in copyright limbo where I sign all of this shit appealing their decision. And it's shit that says that if I file this in bad standing, my channel could be terminated. I have to do that every single time I upload one of these reviews now. Specifically me too. Razorblade uploads a review every time a season drops, and he never has that issue, but I know my videos are transformative and constitute fair use. I know I have a right to make them and give them to all of you. And so I do it, because if I don't, who else will? Somebody in the Dragons fandom needs to hold this show accountable for the bullshit it's pulling. And all of you seem to enjoy me doing it, so I'm happy to do the dirty work. And finally, my favorite comment on the last review. I think your cat had more logical character development than in the show, and showed she learned from her past mistake by hesitating to run into the door. You hear that, Toast? You have more character development than June, which isn't saying much. Yes, she's back at it again. Yeah, that door is her mortal enemy now. No, you probably have the same number of brain cells as Tom. Although people on the internet like you a whole lot more. You wanna say hi to all your fans? No? You just wanna slap me? Okay. Say hi! So that is gonna be all for this review. I'm sure I'll be seeing all of you again very soon with how late this is gonna be posted after season 6. I'm sure season 7 is right around the corner. Toast, stop fucking with the door. Thank you for sticking with me through the very intensive process of making these. And check out my other content if you're interested in the Dragons universe. And remember to go check out the charity auction for the Alex doll. You only have 1 week following the posting of this video to go bid on it. Proceeds are going to a great charity, so go check that out if you're interested. What are you doing? Again, do not go after or harass anyone who worked on the show or people who support it publicly. Toast, stop! What is your problem with that door? It did nothing to you. Alright, and we will see all of you in season 7. I'm sure people making the show are looking forward to my review as much as they are the new season premiere. I mean, how offended can they really be by me speaking the truth? It's not like they're out to kill me or anything. Hi there. I don't want to take this off. I feel like Taylor Swift in that music video. You know I spent more time on this look than the screenwriter spent on Feather's name. That's the sad thing.